I'm your host, Brian Wells, and I'm a fourth-generation homesteader. Since 2008, my family and I have been homesteading here in beautiful upstate New York. In 2019, I launched the Homestead Journey podcast to help people just like you get started and find success on their journey towards self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and sustainability. This is the Homestead Journey, and this is Season 4. Well, welcome everyone to another edition of the Homestead Journey podcast. My name is Brian Wells. I am coming to you from 3B Farm and Homestead here in beautiful upstate New York. This is Season 4, and this is actually episode number 150. Yeah, let's get some applause going there. Yeah. Episode 150 of the Homestead Journey podcast. Welcome, everyone. Now, we certainly have done more than 150 episodes back when we were doing the 5-Minute Fridays. That certainly is not in the totals as far as 150 episodes, but that's neither here nor there. That's really just a milestone for me. It is hard for me to believe that I have done that many episodes, and I still haven't run out of things to say. Now, you may be hoping that I will run out of things to say, but if you are a longtime listener and you keep coming back for more, well, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. And if you're brand new to the podcast, well, welcome. I am so glad that you found it, and I do hope that you will find the podcast helpful on your journey towards self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and sustainability. Well, all of that said, folks, it has been a busy week here on the homestead. It's that time of year when things are starting to warm up and we're starting to be able to get outside and do all of the things. And so this week, well, we did a lot of things. And so before we jump into the main topic of today, which is going to be talking about how to plant a garden for the Mediterranean diet, let's jump right into this week's homestead happenings, and I'll bring you up to speed with what we've been doing here on 3B Farm and Homestead. Well, like I said, it has been a busy week here on the homestead. Yesterday here in beautiful upstate New York, it was up, I think it was 70 some odd degrees. Now today, it was back in the 40-degree range, which is more in tune with what we normally have this time of year. But yesterday, boy, it just felt nice. And so I was able to get out and get some things done. Actually spent some time getting my grapes and my currants pruned. A little late to the game on that. I really should have done that earlier in March. I do hope that I didn't wait too long and I haven't caused too much stress on the plants, but it is what it is. I did go ahead and get them pruned. I'm actually going to try to follow through this year on putting those cuttings into water and getting them to root. And then that way I will have either more grape plants and currant plants to plant here on the homestead, or I may have an income stream for the homestead, taking something that would generally be a waste product that we would get rid of, that we would either throw in the compost pile or just throw into the woods. And hopefully I'm going to be able to turn that into a resource. I tried doing that last year and things, well, they started out well, but I just kind of got sidetracked and I never really followed through on it. And so hopefully this year I'll follow through on it and I'll be able to keep you posted on how that project works out. This week, the seed orders started arriving, and that's so exciting. Now, of course, again, I'm a bit late to the game on this. I think according to Farmer's Almanac, I should have been starting my peppers and my tomatoes about 2 weeks ago. And there were probably a few other things. I think some of the herbs I should have been starting a couple of weeks ago. But it is what it is. You can't start them if you don't have them. And certainly I was waiting to get the seed starting system all wrapped up. And that is complete. And the lights are on. I've been tracking the temperature with I have a thermometer and It's a humidity reader. I can't remember all of the things that it does. I believe, by a company called Govee. And I think I ordered it off of Amazon. I don't even remember how much it cost. I ordered it several years ago. But what that does is actually keeps track of the humidity and the temperature in the area over time. And then you just kind of get near it with your phone. It connects via Bluetooth and it downloads all that information. And the thing that's really, really exciting to me is that it's been maintaining a temperature in that seed starting system of about 70 degrees pretty consistently. And that's with no supplemental heat whatsoever. That's just because of the lights that I have in there, which I have, I think, maybe 3 fluorescent lights. The rest are LED lights, but those are generating enough heat so that that room is staying pretty consistently around 70 degrees, which is almost optimal for most vegetables to germinate. So I'm very, very excited about that. I probably will still go ahead and put a few heat mats under things like peppers, which, sometimes need a little bit of extra help. But other than that, I'm really, really excited to see how things go. And right now I am very happy with where we're at with that system. But since the seeds were here and the seed starting system was set up this afternoon, my dad came by and he and I got some seeds in the dirt, and that is so exciting. Now, I keep track of everything that we planted, but I have not gone through and added it all up. We did, I think it was 8 or 9 trays of different things using wind strip trays. I also am trying out some, they're not these red solo cups, the large red solo cups. They're kind of the smaller red solo cups. I am starting some things in those, and we'll see how that works out. I love the wind strip trays because they're so easy to fill with the potting soil mix. They're really easy to use. But I also don't have enough of the larger trays. And so that leaves me starting a lot of things like peppers in trays that aren't necessarily optimized for them. And I can't remember exactly what the cell counts are. There's one that I think has 72 and one that has 128, and then there's one that maybe has 50. And the one that has 50 is optimized for things like tomatoes and peppers. But because I only have 2 of those trays, I use those for my tomatoes. And then the 72 cell trays, which really aren't optimized for peppers and tomatoes, I use to get my pepper started. And so technically I probably should pot those on, but I don't think I'm going to. But anyhow, it was very, very exciting to get all of that done and into the seed starting system. Now I'll do another round of starting some things here in a couple of weeks. There's a few things that I want to get a jump start on, things like some melons and some squash and a few things like that, a few more herbs, some flowers that I want to get started indoors. But the bulk of it, I got started today. And that was one of the nice things about waiting is that usually I would have started some peppers and tomatoes a couple of weeks ago, and then I would have started some herbs and maybe some brassicas I think would be around this time. And now I just, kind of got it all started at one whack. And so that was really nice. It's kind of one mess, clean it up, and you're kind of done. Now, like I said, in a couple of weeks, we'll start a few other things, but it just feels great to have those seeds in the dirt and things underway. Now, one of the funny things that did happen is I went to start planting some herbs this afternoon, and I realized I made a bit of a mistake. And that mistake is that I ordered 20 grams of Greek oregano. Now, if you're listening to this audio only, you're not going to see the size of the package, but the size of the package is about postage card size. And it is filled with many, many, many little itty bitty, it's almost like a dust. These seeds are so teeny tiny. I probably have enough a Greek oregano seed for the entire state of New York. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Another reason why this is ridiculous is because this is a perennial. So it's not like if I do this right, I'm going to have to keep planting this over and over and over again. It should keep coming back if I don't kill it, right? And so I have 20 grams of Greek oregano seeds. And folks, I planted 4 squares, 4 cells, we'll call it, of Greek oregano. And in order to do that, I needed to use like a little bit of like a pinch of this, and you kind of just dust it on there. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. I have no idea what I was thinking and why I would have ordered 20 grams of Greek oregano, but I have Greek oregano forever. Like, yeah, this is wow. So yeah. Anyhow, I looked at that. I kept shaking my head, and I just couldn't stop laughing. Now, some other things that we got done this week here on the homestead. I have fallen behind in getting wood chips into my pig pens this year, and I've felt really, really bad about it. It's just, in part, there's been some infrastructure issues. In part, it's been because of winter and snow and not being able to get down to the town barn where the wood chips are. But my pig pens have been just an absolute mucky, muddy mess. And I don't like it, but it is what it is. But finally this week, I was able to get some wood chips, and started addressing some of those issues. And I just feel so much better about things around here now as a result. A buddy of mine, Sam, came over this week, and he helped me move some. And then I just went and got some tractor bucket loads full and moved it up here kind of one bucket load at a time, which is not really the way I like to do it, because you're burning a lot of diesel to do that. But right now the farm truck's having some issues, so it's over at a buddy's house getting looked at. I'm not sure what I did to it, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And so I was able to get those pig pens addressed. But the lower pig pens where my young grow outs were located at, it's very difficult for me to get down there this time of year, because it's just past my leach field, and I have to be very, very careful where I drive with my tractor, because I don't want to mess up my leach field. And the ground being soft right now, early spring, having had some rain, it's just not conducive for me to be able to get down there with wood chips. So what I did is I subdivided one of the pens and hit it with wood chips yesterday. And then today, while my dad was here, we went ahead and moved those piglets up over the hill. Now, initially, my plan was just to brute force it. I was going to get them some feed and kind of sneak up behind them, grab them, and then carry them, lug them up over the hill, kicking and screaming, literally kicking and screaming, and then put them in the other pen. Now, there's a couple of them that were of the size where I could do that. I still could pick them up, but there are a bunch of them that are probably close to 100 pounds. And 100 pounds kicking and screaming with mucky, muddy feet is just not something that I was looking forward to, but I was just going to do, you just do what you got to do. These pigs are not ones that have gotten out yet, so I've not had the opportunity to really see if they are bucket trained. And so I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to roll the dice on that. But my dad said, hey, come on. You have those rubber feed pans. I'll just go ahead. I'll hook onto it with your handy dandy little grabber stick, and I'll just pull that and see if they'll follow it. And don't you know, they followed him right up over the hill and boop, right on into the pen. So Dad, this is for you. Some applause. Woo! Yes. No, it worked out very, very well. And if you want to see that and you don't follow us on social media, head on over to our Facebook page. I have uploaded a video of those pigs just following my dad. So I think we're going to call him now the Pig Piper or the the pied pigger. I don't know. You help me out, but it certainly worked very, very well. And I'm very happy that those pigs are where they're supposed to be right now. The last thing I wanted to share with you is that things are really coming together well for the Homesteading Festival that will be taking place here in beautiful upstate New York, the 19th, 20th, and 21st of May. We have been nailing down speakers. In fact, we nailed down, I think, our last speaker this week. We had really struggled to find somebody local to speak about gardening. We had several people that were interested, very, very capable of doing it, but for one reason or another, just their schedules didn't match up. And I was able to find somebody this week who is a master gardener. She's a friend of mine, and it's just why I didn't think of her, I don't know. But she is somebody who has run actually a cut flower business for over 20 some odd years. But like I said, she's a master gardener. And so I am so excited to have her speak on the topic of gardening at the Homesteading Festival. But folks, we have a really great lineup of speakers, and we've got sponsors that are coming on board, which is just so great to see. And so if you're in the area, or you can make it to the area the 19th, 20th, and 21st of May, it's going to be a great time. This first, hopefully annual, Southern Adirondack Homesteading Festival. So if you are interested at all in that, and you want to check it out, head on over to thehomesteadjourney.net/festival. You'll find some more information there, and you'll also find a link to the website where you can download the schedule. You can see all of the speakers that we're going to have, the workshops that are going to be available, and you'll also be able to buy tickets. So check it out. But I am so excited. The first annual Southern Adirondack Homesteading Festival. It's going to be a great time. So head on over to thehomesteadjourney.net/festival to check that out. Well, that's it for this week's Homestead Happenings. A lot of stuff going on here on 3B Farm and Homestead. I'm so excited about springtime. I so love this time of year. I hope things are well wherever you are at. All right, let's jump on over to this week's Charting the Course. Jenna, a member of the Supporting Listeners program, asked me this a few days ago. Are you planting anything new this year to go along with the diet change? Well, Jenna, I'm so glad you asked. That is a wonderful question, and that is going to be the topic for this week's episode. When I decided to do the series about the Mediterranean diet, one of the first things that came to my mind was that I needed to do an episode on gardening for the Mediterranean diet. And I started doing a little bit of research into what that would entail. Now, I think when I first started looking it up, I was asking the wrong question, because I started Googling how to plant a Mediterranean garden. Well, that's not what I'm trying to do, because a Mediterranean garden is going to have all of like these Mediterranean flowers and plants, the flora and fauna of the Mediterranean. No disrespect to any of that, but that's not what I'm looking to do. And in fact, as I started looking at that, I'm like, oh my goodness, there really isn't much here that I can grow here in beautiful upstate New York. And so then I started asking the right question, or I think it was the right question, and that was, how do I grow a garden for the Mediterranean diet? Now, I still got things like olives and artichokes and dates and figs. And like I mentioned, I think it was on last week's episode, I really got focused on some of that stuff, and I got focused on what I couldn't grow, what I couldn't do. But then as I started looking at the list, I started realizing that most of the stuff that it suggests that I can grow here in beautiful upstate New York, I already grow. I'm already growing a garden that is compliant with the Mediterranean diet. I mean, who knew? This was the list. Cucumbers, tomatoes, paste slicers and cherry tomatoes, beans, peppers, winter squash, radishes, beets, turnips, carrots, onions, garlic and shallots, asparagus and eggplant, lettuce, arugula, spinach, kale and chard, melons, okra, zucchini, summer squash, peas. I grow all of that. In fact, on the list of things that can be grown in beautiful upstate New York that was recommended for the Mediterranean diet, on that list there were 3 things that I don't grow yet. Radicchio, which it's kind of looks like a lettuce, but it's really leaf chicory. It's a bitter green, and it's used commonly in Italian cooking. Celery, and broccoli rabe. Now, broccoli rabe is not the same as broccoli. It's more closely related to the turnip, I believe. But radicchio, and I hope I'm saying that right, radicchio and broccoli rabe were already on my list of things that I might want to try out in the future. And celery is something that I've never really had much interest in trying to grow, in part because I think my dad's tried growing it before, and I don't remember him having much success with it. But those were the 3 things that I saw on the list that I don't grow. And I was already considering growing 2 of them anyhow. I already have a garden that is in tune with the Mediterranean diet. Yay me! Yay me! When I saw that, and again, going back to how I had kind of ended up in a bit of a funk because I was so focused on all of the things that I couldn't grow, which wasn't that many things to begin with, I thought, man, Brian, how foolish you are. You're already doing the things. Now, I do think where I've landed with this whole Mediterranean diet and this whole garden for a Mediterranean diet thing is that I don't really need to get caught up in growing exotic vegetables just because of the diet. In fact, like I said, there really aren't too many exotic vegetables that I can grow that I'm not already growing anyhow. But instead, I just need to keep following my own advice. And what is that? When it comes to gardening, what do I say? Grow what you like to eat. That's it. Grow what you like to eat. And I just need to take that advice. I just need to continue doing what I've been doing, and that is tweaking every year what I grow in my garden based on what we like to eat. Now, there are a few things that I didn't have on this list that I talked about on last week's episode, such as grains. And the reason why I'm not covering those things is because I'm just not sure on a small scale, the amount of land that I have to work with, that I can grow enough grains to really, where it makes sense to use the amount of space that I have available for those purposes. That's part of the reason why I don't grow corn, is because corn takes up so much space, and for the amount of space that it takes and what it produces, I would rather buy corn from somebody else and preserve it. And so that's what I choose to do. And again, going back to me getting all worried about, that I couldn't produce olive oil. I don't worry about going and buying corn. Ay. How dumb am I? But anyhow, we're not going to talk about that, right? But back to the grains. One of the things that I am excited about the upcoming homesteading festival is that we are going to have somebody who is going to be talking about growing grains on a small scale. And I'm very excited to hear what he has to say. That's one of the sessions that I'm really, really excited. Not that I'm not excited about all of the sessions, but that's one that I'm really excited to go to because I want to hear what he has to say, because it really does impact what we're doing here on 3B Farm and Homestead. And who knows, maybe next year I will be growing grains on a small scale. But leaving that aside, I'm just going to continue doing what I've been doing, and that is tweaking every year and trying to be very intentional about what we grow and not growing what I think we should eat. But instead, I'm going to focus more on growing the things that I know we do like to eat. I think the key is that we just eat more vegetables than we've eaten in the past. As I mentioned with regards to the plate diagram for the Mediterranean diet, it's 1/2 veg, 1/4 grain or pasta, and 1/4 lean protein. That's what my plate should look like, or that's what I should be aiming for. Now, we may prepare the vegetables a bit differently than we have in the past. For example, I love to steam green beans and then smother them in butter. But I also know that that's probably not the most Mediterranean diet compliant way to eat green beans. So maybe what we'll do instead is we'll steam those green beans. We'll put some herbs in there, toss them with a little bit of olive oil, and we'll eat them that way. And I'm sure they're going to be just as delicious and maybe even more so. And we'll eat them that way. But certainly we're going to be preparing vegetables a little bit differently and certainly eating a lot more of them. Another thing that I want to change is to eat more straight from the garden. So a lot of times what we do is we are really great about preserving the harvest. So we'll freeze beans, we'll can beans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then, you're kind of in a hurry. And so it's kind of a pain in the butt to go up and pick the beans in the garden and bring them down and clean them and steam them that night. And so we'll just open up a jar of green beans, or we'll grab some green beans out of the freezer just because it's more convenient. Well, I really want to do a better job of eating straight from the garden instead of kind of passing it through that preservation phase. Now, that's not to say that we're not going to continue to preserve the harvest, because we will continue to do that. Certainly living in beautiful upstate New York, if I want to have beans in December, I'm going to have to preserve them somehow. So we got to keep doing that. But I do hope to change our approach so that we're eating straight from the garden instead of that intermediate step of preserving them and then eating them. But one of the biggest changes that we're going to be making this year really is I want to focus more on herbs. Now, we've grown herbs in the past. I've grown basil. I've grown, I think, just about all of the herbs. But what I've not been as intentional about using and preserving those herbs, they've kind of played a second fiddle, we'll say, to the rest of the vegetables. And so it's been a matter of, if I'm pressed for time and I need to deal with the bean harvest, well, too bad, parsley, you're on your own. And I want to be more intentional with regards to the herbs this year. And so one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the green stalk planter that I bought last year. It's a vertical planter. I'm going to use that as an herb garden. I'm going to relocate it to our front porch so it's more convenient. It's where I will pass it more than where it's currently located at. And then that way I will be able to step right out from the kitchen and grab some herbs, and we'll be able to use those right in our cooking. And so definitely my goal is to be more intentional about growing, using, and preserving those herbs. The other big change I plan on making is introducing some hydroponics so that we can have fresh lettuce in the middle of the winter, that we can have arugula in the dead of winter, herbs that we might otherwise not be able to have fresh unless we go to the store and buy them. I'm hoping to do some of those hydroponically. So that's just going to be something else that we'll talk about later on in the season, but it's going to be a matter of slightly tweaking the way that we grow things. So for us, the diet really isn't resulting in huge changes to what we're going to grow. We've been growing all of the things. Rather, for us, I think the impact is going to be on how much we grow, when and how we grow it, and how we eat it. Now, if you are brand new to this podcast and maybe you've arrived here looking for guidance on how to plant a garden for the Mediterranean diet, well, let me give you this advice. Plant what you like to eat. That's really it, folks. I thought that I would have so much more in-depth information and specific plants that you should plant, But really where I've landed on this is just grow vegetables and eat them. I mean, that's really it. Now, if you are going to be strictly following Mediterranean diet recipes, you may want to consider growing these staple things. Tomatoes, and that would include slicers and plum tomatoes and cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, bell peppers, onions, and garlic. If you have room, I would also highly recommend that you grow lettuce, spinach, arugula, something like that, basil, thyme, rosemary, sage, oregano, zucchini, and eggplant. Those really are all staples of Mediterranean diet recipes. And so if you have room for all of those things, certainly I would recommend that you grow them. But if you have room for just a handful of them, certainly tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, onions, garlic, and probably basil would be high up on that list as well. Folks, I really don't want to overcomplicate it. And I probably could have said, and maybe I should have said, if you want to plant a garden for the Mediterranean diet, grow the vegetables you like to eat. That's really the long and the short of it. If you like to eat it, you're probably going to eat it. It's certainly going to taste much better than anything that you're going to buy at the store or the farmer's market. And it's just good for you. So have that half a plate of veg, however you do it. Just don't fry it. Don't soak it in butter. Those kinds of things that maybe sometimes we have a tendency to do. Don't take the vegetables and turn them into bad stuff. But man, when they're fresh out of the garden, sometimes eating them raw. I mean, raw peas, raw beans. I mean, I love them. So who knows? Maybe we'll do a little bit more of that this year as well. I don't know. All I know is I way overcomplicated this, folks. I really, really did. And I feel like a fool. But learn from my mistakes. All right? That's it for this episode, folks. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Brian@thehomesteadjourney.net is my email address. I'd love to hear from you. You can also find me on all of the socials. And until next time, everybody, keep up the good work.